Question, do you code in Python? Have you ever thought how nice it would be to have your logs made without doing a bunch of print statements? Or maybe to be able to reuse a particular way of your logging function within each function, right? To do it the same way over and over again. Well, in today's Prosperous Heart training, I'm going to show you a Python programming solution that you can use for any Python code. Hi, if you don't know me, my name is Cassandra. I am the Prosperous Heart, and my biggest passion in life is to empower people just like you by sharing my experience and knowledge to help you save time and make a greater impact. And I do so by sharing my knowledge about digital marketing, programming, software development, etc. Whatever I feel might support you in your endeavor. If I know it or I know someone to introduce you to, then that's what I like to do. So in today's video, I am going to be sharing with you a Python script that I made that will be able to support you if you're looking to add logging into your solutions very easily with like 2 input lines. So I'll make sure, yes. Okay, great. So a little bit of background. I got my computer science degree, my bachelor's in computer science. But when I went to college, my particular college really focused on Java. And I love Java. I learned it in high school. I thought it was fun. I did really well in it. But when I got my first developer job out of college, it was not even a developer job. In fact, it was a stepping stone to a development job because the company that I was with, they had built some internal system that was with Python. So in order to support that endeavor and a lot of other things, I was a self-taught Pythonista, which basically means I taught myself Python. And along the way, it's been an interesting journey, right? Because when you are self-taught, you may not necessarily know the nuances or take the time to know the nuances with the programming platform that you're on. You just kind of have to trust that wherever you're learning from goes into those things. And I actually went through documentation and I did what I needed to support the endeavors that I was working on. Long story short, it was a long time before I actually ever heard of the logging method within Python. And the reason why I'm here today is so that A, make sure that you hear about it so you can use it, and B, give you a really easy way to add it to your programs with a simple bringing in of a module. So like I mentioned, I'm going to show you my code really fast. Let's see. Where'd it go? Okay, great. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And to be fair, I did feel gypped, which is why I want to make sure that you know about this. So let me share my screen. Make sure that you can see my screen. Great. Okay, so what you are seeing here on the left-hand side under the Explorer section of my VS Code, you have a log folder here. If it wasn't there, it would actually create it. And I have my log helper file, which I'll go through in a moment, and then this main prog Python file. So this main prog Python file is basically the main program that is importing the helper script that I'm about to share with you in just a second. So you can see that solution for testing import of my logging helper. We're importing the logging function only for one reason, and I'll show you in a moment. But really, it's these 2 lines that are most important. So this is going to allow you to create a logger based on the formatting that is provided inside of the script that I'm going to show you in a moment. And these wrappers. So one's a sol or solution wrapper, and the other one is a function wrapper, which I'll explain in a moment what they are. So function wrapper. This function wrapper is going to wrap this function with a particular set of logging lines at the very start and the very end. So that way you know when you go into a function, when you come out, and if your code fails for any reason, you know exactly where it ended up. And yes, the normal exceptions that occur and the error messages that are provided should provide enough information, but if you are a newer developer, it may be very confusing. And I just really like this particular way of doing it because, again, it gives me better insight into my own code and when I'm troubleshooting. So I have a very simple function that's basically running a debug level file, or excuse me, function for logging module. So the logging module, this is going to create a debug line of code. I'll show you what that means in a second. Actually, I won't. If you go to this URL right here that I'm about to post up on the screen. right here. So if you go to that website, this is going to have all of the code that I'm about to share with you, and you can check it out. It also has links to this logging module because I'm not going to dive into it. I'm trying to make this pretty short, but like I said, go to that site and you'll get more information. So as you're progressing through here, I'm running a debug log. This is just saying, hey, test debug function. I have another function for info test. I have another function for warning test. These, again, just testing those logging levels to show that it actually works. And then a critical test. So we're having a critical line. The solution wrapper. So this is only used, it should only be used once because it's saying, hey, you have started this program, and it'll give you some more information about it, but then it'll also say that it ends it. So this should be a start of your main wrapper function, excuse me, your main solution function. And that is called when you are running it as a script. So if dunder name is equivalent to dunder main, then I'm basically calling my main function, and I'm also creating a logger as I do that because I want that logger to already be created when I am calling that function. The reason for that is this create logger that we have imported from that script that I made, it's returning a logger object that's already been built. It's already been, it's ready to go. So that logger object is then an input variable or input for this, right? And this is the only reason I have import logging in this file is so I can do this right here to say, hey, I'm expecting this object to be a logging.logger object, right? So from here, again, I run a logger.info command on this logger object. So you can see what it looks like in the file I'll show you in a second. I'm running debug test, which is one of those from up here, some additional lines, a function, a line, function, line, right? Just some things to see what it looks like when run. So over here, you can see that the last time I ran this was October 19th. So if I were to run this right now, Python main program, you'll see that a new file is created with today's date called ext_test for external testing. When I open that up, you'll see all of the log file lines that were done, but on the console, you'll only see warning and critical. The reason for this is because in that helper file, I have it set where when it's logging to an actual file, it's going to be at the base level for debug. So that way it shows all lines of logging that is put inside your code. I have the console set to only show things that are warning and above. So warning, critical, and error, I think. So those are the only ones that show up in this console. You can see that the formatting is also different. So in the console, I have the name of the module, I have the line of the problem, I have the level of logging, and then the message. This one's actually returning the log file that this log message was written to. So again, easy access to figure out where things are stored, so you can easily pull them up. In the actual file, which is above here, you can see that I have the date, the time, the file name, the function that it was called from, the level, and then the message. And it's all standardized, so it's nice and pretty formatting and easy for the human eye to read. Now the coloration, it's just a text file. You can't really tell inside there, but VS Code is doing this coloration. I'm not sure with which IDE extension it is, but that's just VS logs, or VS Code. So as you can see, starting of logs and ending of logs, those are the wrapped part, the sole wrapper that was wrapped around main. That's all that does, is it puts that there every time. So every time this is run, every time logs are printed, you have a start and an end, making it an easy way to find where these logs are happening. You can see that log func wrapper, which is that wrapper function there. It's wrapping, starting this this function from this module. So from the main module, the one that we ran, we are running debug test. Debug test, that's that line that was over here. Right here, right? And so that's basically it. That is the output of the script I'm about to share with you, which again, if you go to, oops, not that one. if you go to this website, you can get all this code and, test it out for yourself. I am going to be updating it, so don't just do the whole, hey, every time this thing updates, just send it my way, because there may be some changes soon. I might be making it into a class. I haven't really decided yet, because it's pretty simple as it is, but there are other things that I want to include in this helper project. One, testing, make sure there's actual real testing here, but also there are ways to send logging over the network and some really cool features that I'm hoping to include, like the one where you can have it create multiple files and keep track, so that, let's say you want to only have 3 files, it will just recycle the next file, right? It does some really cool stuff like that. But anyway, that is that. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this so I can show you again what the rest of the code looks like. So the actual log helper file, and you'll see that I have littered this with comments, but the comments are meant to be helpful. That way, for people who may not have seen this before, or maybe I found a really strange solution through a Stack Overflow article, that stuff is going to be in here because, one, I want to know where I got it from, and two, it's for other information in case you want to dive deeper into what you're learning. So I've got some additional URLs here. I have the imports that are required for the things that I'm doing. And I also used PrettyPrint because I wanted to make sure that what I was doing was, if I printed it to the file log or even the console, that it was formatted nice and properly, or at least nicely. And PrettyPrint does a very good job of doing that. So I get today's date, again, to add that to the log file name, the title, as well as the stuff inside of the file. You can see that I'm creating this logger. So this is that function that's imported that creates the logger for you. It has the file name, file mode level, console level, and log location. So this log location I want to specifically bring up because for this solution, for my particular project, I want it to be the current location. So current working directory, os.getCurrentWorkingDirectory is an built-in method with a built-in module for Python. So OS is a Python module, and the get current working directory says current place /logs. So this is basically by default looking for this location for the folder. As you go through this, it's going to check, hey, does it actually exist? If not, it's going to make it. It then builds the configuration with the date format, file name, like all this is inside the logging facility documentation. So please do check it out. But you can see this is what is used for the file itself, right? So that file that was created, so logging location /today _ whatever the file name is provided, which is part of the input up here. Then we build the logger, we set up the console stream, we add it to the logger, and then we return it. So that's what happens in the main program right here when we're calling that initial function. So create logger, returns that logger object, boom, we can just move forward. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't know that I want to make a class object, because it's already an object itself. But again, I'll figure it out later. Anyone's welcome to help with this, by the way. So it's all made. And then we have the func wrapper, which this func wrapper is a log function wrapper. It is becoming, I'm going to be using it as a decorator on the functions that are in main program, right? So func wrapper is a decorator for crit tests and all these other regular functions, not the main one. And what that does is, again, it makes sure that it checks for the logger module in here. And this is actually not foolproof yet. There's a couple things I need to do to make sure that if it's not there, right, this doesn't fail. But again, another topic for another day. And then we'll take that logger and make that print of starting from module. So, right, we saw that right here, starting from module from here. And then if there's anything returned, right, we're going to make sure that we return it. So it's then taking this function and return this function. So this is a little bit deeper. If you're not familiar with wrappers, feel free to look it up. Or I am providing some one-on-one calls in October. I only have about 7 spots left. So just send me a message and we can chat if mentorship with me is right for you, or for us technically. So that's what the wrapper does. And that's how we get that nice wrapping of starting and ending right here. So this is the entire debug test function. the sole wrapper, which, as I said, is intended to be used only once when you're running that main function or whatever you call it. And it does similar things, but in case there's an error that happens, right? And so in the original main program, I do have this assert right here to make sure that it fails. And so if your script fails, you know, that wrapping function, unless you build it properly, it will not finish. And so you won't know when it actually ends inside of your logging system. And so what I did is, hey, I tried to get that, right? And if there was a failure in it, which for the other one there was, I do an exception, which generally I tell people to never, ever, 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 ever do this general exception here, because it's just too general. You can't really figure it out. But this will still tell you what's going on, right? So if you look inside of the log file, we see that there was a problem here, and here in the debug line, so, oh, this doesn't have a line in it. I need to fix that. It shows the assertion error in the message, right? So it shows the debug message. So accept error, exception, accept exception as error. And then, oh, there's so many spaces. And then it takes that error message and formats it here. So that error message was this right here. Assertion error, just, that's the message that was passed when that assertion point failed. So you can actually put that in the logs. You can even re-raise it. You can do some things to really better support things that are failing like that. And then once that's done, right, if it didn't fail, you can just simply return the data like normal. But if it does fail, or even if it doesn't fail, you always want it to run the end of log section. So that's why the finally is there. And so that's how I have it always show that part. Now I can prove it to you. I need to change this from W, which is write, to A for append. And then I can show you again. So I'll just run this again. You'll see that it has from 39 and 10 minutes later, which is the rest. So it just has ending log, starting log. So you can always find the start and end. And I think that's it. Yeah. So I hope this was helpful for you. Let me make sure that my other notes are here. Oops, wrong window. Great. Okay, that's it for today's training. Let me make sure that there's no questions in the chat. I don't see any. So again, if you want to see this code, definitely go to this URL right here, processheart.com/logging in Python, and you'll get this video once it's done and available, but also the link to the code. If you are on some page that doesn't have a way to message me and you are looking to work with me, you can also go to this location, resume.processheart.com. And what that will do is it's my digital resume. It does need a little bit of updating since December, I think. But it's the information there is how to contact me. So feel free to contact me through LinkedIn and let me know if you want to do that one-on-one. All right, that's all for me for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful and prosperous rest of your day. Happy coding.